My billionaire uncle left me $10 and a court date. When my uncle Raymond died, the news hit every local outlet. Billionaire, real estate mogul, philanthropist, self-made legend. That is what they called him on TV. To me, he was the man who showed up once a year at Christmas in a tailored suit and handed out envelopes like he was hosting a game show. I was not expecting much in the will. We were not close, but we were blood. So when the lawyer called and said I needed to be present in person for the reading, I felt something between curiosity and dread. The room was exactly how you imagine dark wood, long table, expensive silence. Cousins. I barely recognized, pretending not to size each other up. Everyone acting respectful but calculating. At the same time, the attorney read through pages of donations, properties, trusts, foundations, millions flowing to institutions and distant relatives. When he got to my name, he paused to my nephew. He leaves $10 and the right to appear in court regarding a pending civil matter. People laughed softly like it was some eccentric joke. I felt heat crawl up my neck. $10 felt intentional. Like punctuation after the reading. The attorney pulled me aside and handed me a thin folder. My uncle had filed a civil lawsuit before he died against one of his former business partners, accusing him of fraud, embezzlement, and breach of contract. The case was active, and according to his will, he assigned me the right to continue it. I thought it was a mistake. I told the lawyer I knew nothing about his businesses. He said that was precisely the point. Apparently years ago, when I was 20, fresh out of college, and drowning in student debt, I asked my uncle for advice. Not money, just advice. He told me if you ever want to understand power, follow the paperwork. I did not understand what he meant back then. Now I was staring at boxes of documents, financial statements, internal emails, offshore transfers. My uncle left the majority of his estate to charity, but this lawsuit was separate. If the case succeeded, the damages could be significant, very significant. Why me? Kept asking that question until I found a handwritten note tucked inside the folder in his sharp, impatient handwriting. You were the only one who ever asked how it worked instead of how to get some. That line hit harder than the $10. The defendant tried to settle quickly. Once he realized I was not dismissing the case, he assumed I would fold, assumed I would sell my rights cheap and walk away. He underestimated how personal it had become. Not because of money, but because I started reading the paperwork. The fraud was real, fake vendors, siphoned funds, inflated project costs, quiet transfers buried under shell companies. The kind of thing that hides in complexity because most people do not have the patience to untangle it. Months turned into a year. Depositions, hearings, stacks of evidence. I spent nights learning terms I had never heard before, calling experts, asking uncomfortable questions. I was no longer the clueless nephew in the corner when the case finally went to trial. The narrative shifted from greedy heir to reluctant whistleblower. The jury did not take long. The verdict came back in our favor. Damages awarded high enough to make headlines again after legal fees and taxes. My share was more money than I had ever imagined. But the strange part is the $10 still sits framed on my desk because that was the real inheritance. He did not leave me wealth. He left me leverage and a test to see if I would notice most of my relatives. Still think it was some twisted prank. They have no idea that the smallest line in the will turned out to be the most valuable. And sometimes I wonder if that was the lesson all along. In rooms full of people chasing millions, the person paying attention to the fine print walks away with everything.